Ahead of this weekend's PTR for Dragon Soul, we've had a whole load of development notes go out, which I just want to have a quick talk through. I won't keep you long on this one because there's three things. One of them's fairly obvious, one of them's pretty cool, and one of them I'll never be able to get on board with. So first of all, if you don't remember, back when Cataclysm was announced at BlizzCon, they said about us getting the streamlined auction house. Well, finally, as of Monday, we're going to be able to actually test this on the PTR. And just in case you wondered what it was, my guess is it's just going to be like the retail auction house, because everything they explain in this blue post pretty much goes along with how that actually functions. So rather than reading out exactly what the blue post says, I'll just explain to you roughly how it works. So this is the retail auction house if you haven't seen it before, and this is probably what we're going to have in Cataclysm Classic. They've only made one minor adjustment, and that comes to when you're selling items, which I'll get onto in a minute. But basically, let's say you're leveling engineering and you want loads of mithril ore. You can just type in mithril ore, the amount of them you want to buy, and it will tell you how much it's going to cost you. Done. It's as simple as that. No more scrolling through trying to find the cheapest stacks of 20 and buying one stack at a time, or having to use Auctionator or TSM or any other auction house add-on. You can just do it all with the standard UI. It's actually a really cool version of the auction house, in my opinion anyway. As someone who plays retail, I've kind of just got used to this auction house, and that's why I use Auctionator, because it's pretty much the closest I can find to functioning like this, but I'm sure you guys may use different add-ons which do a similar thing. Now, obviously, you can just browse through things like elixirs and whatever you might need for raid or even enchants, and then you can just scroll through and find what you want. And it should just be in a lot easier way, because it's not all individual stacks posted all over the place. You know, if you look for, let's say, elixirs, you're just going to see all of the different types of elixirs that are available on the auction house. Click on one, and you can see how much it's going to cost you for however many you want to buy. The thing that they've said is going to be slightly different is when you put an item in the sell slot, it's not going to give you a default price based on the lowest listing. You'll have to actually click on the side to select which one you want to basically price it as, or put your own price in. I don't know why they would leave this out personally, because it just means you can literally throw something in the box, press sell, throw something in the box, press sell, rinse and repeat. Like, you know, it does make posting items just a breeze. You don't even need to think about it. The other thing is, it is only going to be server wide, but hopefully we get server merges where all of the servers are booming anyway at some point before Mr. Pandaria. Fingers crossed. Now I'll move on to Dragon Soul before I get to the bit where I'm going to rant and absolutely irritate loads of you, because I guarantee, sorry, it's not even 6 o'clock yet, I really need some tea. What I'm talking about is Raid Finder. We're going to talk about Raid Finder in a minute, because it's not going to be in the game, apparently. Even though last weekend they were saying we was going to test it, but yeah, they've changed their mind, and we'll get into that. But first, what about Dragon Soul? Now, anyone who done Dragon Soul last week, whether you're an elite hardcore raider in one of the best guilds in the world, or you're a bit of a more casual player that maybe just went in and done normal, I don't think anyone would argue the fact that it's actually quite a difficult raid. Now, we know we're going to expect either a buff on ourselves, because what was actually data mined was a player power buff rather than what it was originally, where it was a debuff to the boss's health and damage. Think ICC, where we got the buff each couple of weeks or however frequently it was, where you got health, damage, absorb, all of that jazz. Well, obviously that is going to be the thing that just naturally over time, aside from gear, will make Dragon Soul easier. So the fact that with 0 buffs and 0 gear, it is actually a big challenge, there's nothing wrong with that, because it will get easier. But also, even normal might be a bit difficult for some guilds, because you might, like, take it for granted, a bit like me. You know, you're clearing ICC. I'm talking about ICC now. You're clearing Firelands Heroic every week, you know, in an hour, hour and a half, whatever. There are guilds that still haven't even cleared normal. So things like Raid Finder being in the game is going to be a positive thing, but I can't stop thinking about Raid Finder. Let's get back to Dragon Soul. Anyway, yes, it was difficult. We know it was difficult, and none of that's changed. It looks like it's going to be equally difficult, but they've just basically fixed the bosses that we couldn't test properly. So Hagara's ads now spawn in proper waves, and the boss no longer activates early. That's the first thing they've said, and they've not mentioned that Hagara wasn't working, as in there was no big bubble that, you know, you stand in and take damage and you need to move in there to get dispelled and all that jazz. I won't bore you with tactics of bosses, but basically, yeah, there's big things missing on the Hagara fight, and they've not actually mentioned that they've fixed it, so I'm just kind of hoping that they have. They've said the extra action button is now available during the Ultraxian and Madness of Deathwing encounters. Well, Ultraxian had more wrong with it than just the extra action button. There was practically no raid damage going around at all either, so something else that hopefully has been fixed alongside that, and they've just left it out of the notes. And Spine of Deathwing encounter works properly now and no longer teleports players to the beginning of the encounter. So Spine of Deathwing, no one could get past. So the last two bosses just wasn't tested at all, and Spine is arguably like the biggest brick wall of Dragon Soul. That's the one where there's going to be the majority of wipes happening, so I'm interested to see what that's going to be like this weekend. Now, overall, if anyone was expecting any nerfs to health and damage or anything like that in any of them, it doesn't look like that's happened. And to me, it doesn't even look like some of the fights that were bugged have been addressed, other than the big bugs like the fact that the extraction button wasn't working and they had to put a workaround in. So we'll see what this weekend looks like. And now, the big one. If you've watched me for any length of time, like even if just going back to Wrath of the Lich King, you know that I was a big advocate for Random Dungeon Finder. I was saying we should have had Random Dungeon Finder from the start, while other people were saying, no, it's the beginning of the end, Dungeon Finder's rubbish, all of that, you know. And I was adamant all the way through that, no, we need Random Dungeon Finder. Makes the game so much better. While Raid Finder's a little bit different, it really does become a big part of the game. It's extra content to do. It's a way for the more casual players to be able to see the raid content, even if it's in what we would consider a bit of a crap environment. You know what I mean? As in, like, lots of wipes, people just running around, no idea what they're doing. But it doesn't matter. People who won't be raiding normal or heroic will still get to see the encounters. And it's kind of a critical gearing path as well. Not just in Dragon Soul, but in Mists of Pandaria. And in Mists of Pandaria, when you've got this expansion-long legendary cloak questline to do, it's the best thing in the world for alts. You know, the fact that you can keep up to date with an alt, and it's the legendary questline, without actually dedicating time to raiding on a fixed schedule or doing a GDKP or anything like that. You can literally just do your raid finder once a week, and you're gonna be able to keep up to date. So at some point down the line, if you decide to re-roll, you've not got to go all the way back to the beginning, and you've not got to put massive time investments in doing actual raids on it every week. So in Mr. Pandaria, 100% is needed. In my opinion, even in Dragon Soul, it's needed. And the reason why is because we have now seen the difficulty of Dragon Soul. We've seen how difficult it was last week. We assume it's going to be pretty much the same this week because there's been no notes kind of saying otherwise. So using Raid Finder as a way to get extra items pretty quick, you know, for the heroic boss pushes, for things like Spine being able to hopefully get quicker, faster 2 sets and 4 sets, it's kind of a no-brainer. And as I say, for those more casual guilds that will even struggle on, let's say, the normal bosses, the fact that they've got somewhere where they can go and they can queue up as quite a big group and go in, it just makes absolute sense to me. And I know many of you will be like, oh, Raid Finder sucks, but it's one of them things where I've always sort of been on the fence with videos. I've always said that Raid Finder is just implemented wrong, as in the fact that hardcore raiders feel forced to go and do it. If that's the case, then put Raid Finder in, but just 2 or 3 weeks later, when the content's already done, everything's on farm for the hardcore elite raiders, now Raid Finder can be implemented, and just implement it in the same way it's always been implemented. Because what Blizzard said in this blue post was, after evaluating the current progress, it's clear to them that the implementation that they've been working towards will be an unsatisfying experience for the players. And this is probably because it was data mined that it looked like it was going to be 10-man LFR. It's just stupid. It doesn't need changing. Leave it as it is and just put it in the game, but maybe just delay it a few weeks if you want. I wouldn't. I would have it out at launch. I would have it out at launch of Dragon Soul, so those guilds that need more gear to be able to get through bosses have got a way to get it. Now, Blizzard have said there is going to be an alternative avenue of getting it, and I think we all know what it will be, because they've even recognised the fact that the rewards from Raid Finder, particularly the gear at the very start of the raid tier, are highly desired. So they're preparing alternative avenues for players to acquire those rewards, whether or not they participate in the other difficulties of the raid. Now, if that's just going to be, here, do more Inferno dungeons to be able to get Raid Finder gear, that is literally worse than Raid Finder being implemented. Now, they have said they're just pausing Raid Finder. They haven't said they're not putting it in, they're pausing putting it in. So they could be going down the same lines as leaving it a couple of weeks, waiting until the raid's been out and cleared by all the top guilds, maybe then putting Raid Finder in. But they do specifically say whether or not they participate in the other difficulties of the raid. To me, that just screams out that the new protocol, Shadow, Twilight dungeons, or whatever they decide to call them, are going to be the way that you're going to get Raid Finder gear, which, I'm sorry, we've been doing these dungeons the entire expansion. That is a terrible, terrible idea, if that is the lines they're going along. Raid Finder, again, in my opinion, is going to be absolutely essential in Mr. Pandaria, so why hold back on it now? I don't see adding extra content ever a bad thing. If you don't want to go and do it, don't go and do it. It's as simple as that. There'll be plenty of people that will want to go and do it. The Blizzard, sort it out. Come on. But anyway, that's my morning rant. I can enjoy my cup of tea now, and I will see you on the next one. Obviously, like and subscribe and all that jazz, and tell me why I'm wrong about Raid Finder, as I know many of you will. See you later.